Hello, hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair ragale, ni hao, chunashumme, washmale, ohaya gonzaimas, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, ahlan, wasalan, marhaba, hale shamachatore, and a very amazing warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PT World and watching World this morning. And look who's with me, Maha Makhdoom and Shazad Khan. Hello, Maha, how are you today?
Hello Shazad, assalamu alaikum everyone. I am good. I am back and it's good to be back. I feel nervous like going back on air after ages. But
Yeah.
I realize you've added at least another 2 hellos since I've been away.
I think it's three
one
of them.
hello per week.
But other than that, Maha, we definitely missed you, and the
Oh, I
feedback we were
missed
getting,
you.
there were people out there, they missed you too as well.
That's
All
nice.
our
Thank
viewers
you.
out there were actually excited that you're going to be back on Monday.
Excellent.
But
That's
and
good.
there's a sigh of relief within my own self as well that now, well, God forbid, if I had to do something other than the morning show, I can probably take a leave
That's
because
absolute-
you were here to watch my back.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great that you have that kind of comfort as well. But no, it's great to be back. I had to go away because of family stuff, and
Yeah.
it was good to go away. It was good to be at home. But now it's nice to be back, and I like doing the show. But it's nerve-wracking again.
So
Like,
it's good to be away, and then it's nice to be back.
Yeah.
Which one's better?
no comment.
Both of them.
They're both
All right.
good. They both have their charms. Each thing has its positivity as well.
All right, so now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started with today. Today, the day is Monday.
Yes.
And let's take a look at the top stories because there was quite a lot of things happening on Sunday within Islamabad.
Excellent.
A series of ice-breaking detonations were carried out at a melting section of the Heilongjiang River in northeast China to prevent potential ice jams that could pose danger to nearby residents. Wow. Detonating ice.
It's kind of cool though.
Looks cool. It's like a fountain.
And the Zeus Fair 2018, an international trade fair of food, goods, and services for pets, opened in the Russian city of St. Petersburg.
Ugh.
Oh, cute. I love cats. We have 2 cats at home.
Wow. And yeah, coming back to Islamabad, where Islamabad United organized a victory parade to celebrate their Pakistan Super League 2018 win. The victory celebrations began from Islamabad's D Chowk and concluded at F9 Park. And the point of conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, was F9 Park because the Spring Festival was going on over there from Friday till Sunday. People had quite a lot
Sweet.
of fun, and it was great.
Islamabad won the PSL.
Yeah.
They made a comeback, didn't they?
Yeah, this is the second time that we've got the cup. I mean,
Because they weren't doing so great when we were doing that.
I don't think people can actually handle burgers now. Well, it was good. It was good. We had fun, and just by looking at them and this victory parade, everybody was excited, and
Excellent.
the roads were
Congratulations.
just filled with people. They were mesmerized with their
Excellent.
presence.
Wonderful. That would explain some of the traffic yesterday then, because that's what I came back to. But no, that's wonderful. But now we have a wonderful show lined up for you. And
Yeah.
as you know, we like to give a lot of information, but not bombard you with it. And there are certain things about Pakistan that actually we are not aware of and we should be aware of. right?
Exactly, because okay, I'm going to give it away. So, ladies and gentlemen, wildlife of Pakistan is very diverse, the flora and fauna of it. And now, when we speak of it, Pakistan actually has got 177 different mammals and different kinds of animals over here within, our geographical location. And then, other than that, we have got 660 birds of different species over here within Pakistan.
That's
But
amazing.
quite a lot of times, due to climate change and all of these other things, we keep on cutting trees because their hibernation periods or probably their transition from a zoo geographical land to another one, it definitely depends on the habitat. And this is what we need to talk about today.
Absolutely. And with that, we're going to be talking about how can we improve the conservation efforts? How can we raise our own awareness? Because like you said, we're chopping trees down, we're destroying the habitats of these animals, which are very vital to our
Yeah.
survival as well, I think,
Okay.
from what I've done the
So,
research.
Maha, what we're going to do is we're going to put ourselves to a little test.
Oh, no, I don't
Okay,
want to.
I seriously want to do it so that, even we learn something.
Well, you can put yourself on the test, because I just got back.
Okay, so we just
test
have
yourself.
to, name a few birds which we see
Oh,
very
okay.
commonly over here in Pakistan.
No, I know.
Yeah.
it is.
Okay, so I'm going to start with falcons.
You took mine. Okay, so you also had the crins and sunbird.
All right, and then we just have have, those doves or pigeons and
Yeah,
birds.
absolutely. And then also you have the kingfisher.
Kingfish. Oh, you
as
took
well.
mine away
Yes,
now.
I did,
We're level.
absolutely. Exactly, even now. But
But imagine out of 660 different types,
Don't
you
know
only knew
any.
like what, 6?
Yeah, and that was because we did the research specifically.
Yeah.
But we have been joined by some wonderful guests in the studio to discuss the situation in Pakistan and what efforts are being made within Pakistan, because you need something that you can relate to. You
Yeah.
need something that's been made in your own home, so that because if someone comes from the outside and does it for you, then that connection is not
But
there.
I think it's only the birds who actually, cross the borders just by flying.
Exactly. So let's introduce to our guests. We have been very lucky. But before we do that, should we introduce the video?
Yeah, I think what we can do is that we can probably share a video. We've got a small video, ladies and gentlemen, for you guys. Go ahead, take an idea. When you guys are going to come back, we'll introduce our guest to you. Go ahead, take a look.
The white-throated kingfishers become particularly noisy on the onset of breeding season. Their loud calls advertise their presence over long distances. This one is excited. In its courtship display, a male shows off the white patches on its throat and wings. To entice females, it also offers mouth-watering snacks. But to be successful, it also takes some luck. All this effort and nothing to show for it must be heartbreaking. But a new dawn brings new sun. And new friends. The small chirps are females' way of responding to males. The male wastes no time and offers a bug as a nuptial gift. She follows his lead. He's quite motivated and has already chosen a nesting site. Confident in his achievements, he makes his move. She is not convinced yet. She wants to make sure everything's just perfect. In his absence, she checks out the nest. The male hasn't given up yet. Females can be very fussy over the size of nuptial gift. This time, he needs to impress with a better one. In just a matter of 1 month, the chicks grow from tiny lumps of meat to almost the size of their parents, except that
Wow, that was just superb to watch early in
Wonderful.
the morning. And you know, the guy who's actually made this entire documentary is with us. And out of 660, ladies and gentlemen, this is just one species we were talking about, and that is Kingfisher of Pakistan.
Wonderful. So let's introduce to our guests and get the conversation started. So we have been joined by Celestia von Shamier. She is a wildlife conservationist and also the public relations officer for Woodnote Films. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. It's
Guten
nice to
Tag.
be here. Guten Tag.
Thank you.
Besides Celestia, we've been joined by Abdullah Khan. He is a wildlife filmmaker and the co-founder and director of Woodnote Films, who made this documentary we were just watching. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Right, so to get the conversation started, first things first, and I know that this is a very difficult work. I'm not going to call it a job because you don't get paid by your bosses over here. So, you know, you make your own documentaries and do it. So first of all, Celeste, how did you got into it? And since you're from Germany, you might have been all around the globe. And how do you think wildlife is in Pakistan?
Well, I got into this job because via the Birds of Islamabad page, I'm a passionate conservationist and hobby ornithologist, and my husband and I moved to Pakistan last year. And before we moved, I did some research on where we were moving to, and I found the Birds of Islamabad page, and I got into contact with some people, and that's how I met Abdullah and Riaz. Riaz Khan is the founder of the organization, and because they support a cause that I also support, I got involved like that.
Wow.
Wonderful. Abdullah, same question to you. How, why did you decide to go into this?
Well, I spent my 3.5 years studying business management, but really figuring out how not to study business management.
Okay.
It was the wrong guy in the wrong place. So, but I had, you have this, well, they say that expert things are tacit things. You can never really explain them, but I had this passion for wildlife, for animals. I felt that connection from the childhood, and later on when I did my MBA, I never looked for a job in that very field. I thought I should follow my passion, and the only way, because I didn't have a degree in animal sciences or biology, so the only way that for me was to express myself through my photography. I bought a camera, I went out into the wild, I took some pictures, and that's how I got involved in that.
Wonderful.
Okay, but even other than that, there's quite a lot of research involved. I mean, we were just taking a look at one of your pieces, and you know, these birds are coming out of their nest, and then you've put in cameras within their nest too as well, where they're, you know, babies hatching from the eggs. And how difficult is it, and how do you get to know where they will be at this particular time of the year?
Well, it's very difficult, especially in Pakistan, because in other countries, in more developed countries, you have, like in England, you have, they even know how many breeding pairs of kingfisher they have. We don't know anything. They have this good research base to support filmmakers. Filmmakers consult the researchers, the university students and the professors, so they give them all the information where they are going to be at what time of the year, because they have done their thesis on that. But we have to do that all by ourselves. That's the challenge. So we have to really rely on our personal observations.
So we really have nothing like regarding that,
Well,
or is it minimal? Like, I mean,
it's minimal. Yeah, we are work is being done now, but it's really not that, because we don't know a lot about wildlife. We don't know how many.
Okay, so I just want to ask one question. So, you know, Celestia, you've worked, you know, in this area for a while, and you, as you mentioned before we came on air, that you've also been in Africa and you've kind of checked it out. Regarding that, how can, you know, what are the steps that one can make in when you have so much potential, you know, research to be done? How do you get people involved in it? How do you overcome those?
And how's the
hurdles?
world doing it?
Yeah,
Well,
how
you
do
know,
we do it?
A lot of people are getting involved because of social media, because people love social media, and some people are getting involved via the Wildlife of Pakistan page. There's this is Facebook. There's also Instagram. There's all kinds of things. Many people on this side of the world are getting involved via photography, because photography is a very popular hobby. What you can do when you become more involved is you can start birding yourself. There's a lovely book, the Birds of Pakistan book here, which you can buy online. You might have to open to the, because it's in
and it comes
newspaper.
alongside a
Open
cover
to the
too.
title
Do you mind
page.
if I
Open
take
to the
it?
title page.
Okay,
And
I'm going to take it out. Can I
you,
take
if
it
you
out?
take it out, it's covered in newspaper because it gets wet.
Okay.
Because when you bird, you get wet.
Yeah.
So if you open to the title page, this is available at Said Book Bank. And it shows pictures and helps you ID all of the birds. Gives a little bit about the habitats, where you can find them, and then also you can get yourself a pair of binoculars. That helps
Wow.
you do research, and there are international and platforms where you can actually post what you've seen, not just Facebook, but you've got iNaturalist, you've got eBird. These are scientific databases that you can upload your information as a citizen scientist.
Okay, so well, let's before we get into the into more depths of what you're doing, how did you use these platforms in order to start your research, or what did you find within Pakistan when you did start out there? What areas did you go for information?
For information about the wildlife. and
Yeah, about the
additional
birds, or like this you just made. You said
Yeah.
there's minimal research, but
Yeah.
did you use the platforms like social media, like Instagram and all these things? What was happening?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, like I learned wildlife filmmaking from YouTube and by reading the blogs of other famous wildlife cameramen like Charlie Hamilton James from BBC and all the Mark Smith. They are fantastic cameramen. So you read. I mean, frankly, I'd also read their grocery list of Charlie Hamilton James. So
Okay.
Wow.
he's my inspiration. So that's how you learn, because there's nothing available here in Pakistan as far as, well, they are good photographers, but as far as filmmaking is concerned, because we are moving from this genre of wildlife photography, stills photographs, to video, because video is like the main source of consumption on social media, and people are really enjoying that, and they are really learning from that, because the attention span is becoming narrower, and people like stuff that is easily digestible.
Absolutely.
And it's short and snappy. We experimented with a BioViewer video, and we were surprised with the response. We got about 2 lakh views in 10 days or something. So we are really excited.
But that is
and-
amazing, and I think at the same time we even need to appreciate for all those people who are putting in effort. So I think they've done a commendable job. Walkabout Films, they've made films about bears, and they've made films about
Brown
snow
bears,
leopard as
yeah.
well, and then they just recently made a documentary about heli skiing too as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are different things, and it's just cool. But now,
Slowly but surely,
yeah.
people are
So
getting
Lester,
around.
what I want to ask is, what do you think about the biodiversity of Pakistan or within Pakistan?
Well, the biodiversity in any country of this size, because you have different ecosystems, down from the mangroves that we were talking about near Karachi, up to the very, very high mountains up in the northern Gilgit-Baltistan area. So you have all these different areas that animals can live and birds can live with different habitats. So you have a very high amount of biodiversity. The potential is very high, and also currently the biodiversity itself is very high. Where we start getting into problems is when we start to degrade the habitats, which is what conservation is all about. So, in fact, you have anywhere between 660 and 798 bird species, because we're discovering new birds almost every few weeks. Somebody's posting something that hasn't been spotted in Pakistan
That's
before.
amazing.
That is very exciting.
Excellent. So I want to pick up on this conservation point that you raised and ask Abdullah. You already mentioned that one of your short clips, it generated over 200,000 views within 10 days. How does so it clearly does work when you create these, and it helps with the conservation? Are people actually starting to respect that more? Are they trying to take more interest in actually how to preserve this?
Well, yeah, of course. It's like one example of that. One recent example is the Blue Planet 2 series, because that was filmed in 4 years, and now that it's filmed, they went to the deepest parts of the ocean, and they discovered a lot of new stories. And alongside that, they also discovered that it's also polluted. There's plastic there in the ocean, and animals are consuming it. So it has instigated that discussion on the use of plastic and the awareness campaign, and the Queen has banned plastic, the use of single-use plastic in the royal states. And
But what about
there's-
Pakistan?
yeah,
How's
yeah.
the perspective in
Yeah,
Pakistan?
that's from there we can learn from that. Like, and now here in Pakistan, we made a film on snow leopards, right? And that is the first time ever that a movie on a documentary on snow leopard has been made by a team which is totally composed of Pakistanis. The cameraman, the edit, the narrator, everything, the research and everything. So when we show that to people, the first thing that people ask is, do we have snow leopards in Pakistan? And that's a quite surprising response that we think it is, because it's such a magnificent animal, and people sort of develop that connection with animal, because we can, even if you go there to the Hunjra, you won't be able to see snow leopard from that close. But we spend time there. We spend 2 months, 3 months, 4 months to get that perfect shot, to get you on the eye level of a snow leopard and to give you that intimate connection and establish that connection.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
we
I would
get
never
there.
want an intimate connection with a snow leopard, honestly. Yeah, that'll be scary. I'd be like, I'm running, I'm going back.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
Those are
experience.
the
It is,
professionals.
And I think
Leave it to the
I
professionals.
think we might even have a clip of one of those documentaries as well, which you made on snow leopards. So if we can share that, Mr. Producer, please give us a go ahead too as well.
Yes,
Continue, Mom.
Okay, so now, so that's talk. Like you said, people are not aware. Like we were talking about also the national bird of Pakistan as well. Like I was talking about on the plane actually with the person sitting next to me. People aren't aware of what we've actually got on our doorstep.
Yeah.
So now, so when you made this documentary, it was, it takes a long time. So how do you, because it's a new concept, relatively new concept here, how do you keep the motivation going? How do you make sure that, it's going to be worth it in the end? For your team as well.
Well, for such a sort of work to be possible, to make a wildlife documentary, you really need to be intrinsically motivated.
Okay.
No monetary thing is going to motivate you to do such kind of work, because it's if you're passionate about it, you're going to do it anyway. Because I did it for the first 4 years. There, I didn't earn anything from it, but I did it anyway. And of course,
That's an alien concept here, because it's like, no, you graduate from uni and you go straight into something
Yeah.
that's going to start paying the bills.
yeah, that's it. So yeah, that's the motivation is intrinsic, and it's we are passionate about that. So we're going to keep. Of course, money helps, but but we are going to do it anyway, even if we don't get
And
paid.
parents
so.
do help too as well if they have money.
Yeah.
Okay? But now I want to come back to Celesta over here before we go on towards another clip about the kingfisher. And that is what happens to trees in spring, because we are seeing that it's spring over here, there are festivals going on. And then what kind of effect does it have on all the birds? I mean, do they migrate? Do they sleep? Do they give birth to kids? What?
Well, spring is really the beginning of life, and trees themselves also wake up because they've been dormant over. Most trees go into a dormant stage over the winter, which is when you see them having lost their leaves. So as soon as spring comes, you have more light. The buds start to come. Eventually the leaves will start to bud, and you will have a cover. In fact, I was amazed. This was my first spring in Islamabad, and within 14 days, all of the deciduous trees around my house became completely covered in leaves. And it's this cover and this food that actually supports the entire food chain of your insects and your birds. Your birds eat insects, your birds eat, some of them are nectar eaters, some of the crimson sunbird that you mentioned, it's a nectar eater. They need this food in order to survive and in order to have their young. And they also use the cover of the trees to build their nests. They don't really start building their nest until there's a bit of cover, so they can actually hide.
And
from
even
predators.
in this weather, we do get so many worms and insects in our houses, or probably even, I'm sorry to say, but cockroaches too as well. I think we
someone's not
kill
keeping the house
majority.
clean,
I think we kill majority of them by our feet too as well, and birds can't get enough of it. But at the same time, we still have a clip from the Kingfisher documentary, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead, take a look at this. When you guys are going to come back, we're going to ask how all of these activities are connected to birds.
And also we're going to bring it back home and bring it to our doorstep and talk about even Islamabad, what do we have available at our doorstep?
Cool. We have a bird park.
A specialist bird needs to have a special design. It has a perfect streamlined beak and special adaptations in the eyes to see its prey underwater. Oops. But having the right tools for the job doesn't guarantee success. He probably needs to change tactics and maybe focus a little more. Once captured, the fish gets a hammering. It is swallowed head first.
All right, so that was one amazing clip from one of the documentaries which Abdullah's actually made. And other than that, Abdullah, it is difficult to, get such a shot where you can actually see a bird hunting their prey. What do we do?
How are you
I mean, you
following
never
it?
know which branch it will probably fly and sit onto then.
Yes, that's a very good technical question, and we struggle with it on daily basis. So we have to actually learn, we observe a lot, and we discover patterns in them. We research on them. We read about their breeding cycle, their hunting behavior, how they're going to. So it's pretty much an educated guess for us.
I mean,
on
for
daily
example,
basis,
if I'm
yeah.
sitting over here on the sofa and if I move like this, you'll probably be like, I'm about to get up.
Yeah.
But how do we figure it out with birds?
That was the challenge. That, like I told you about, we wanted to capture the first flight of a kingfisher, and I sat there, and the little bird that would come to the entrance of the nest, and it would you'd say that it's about to jump, but it wouldn't. It would go back, and I spent 4 days like that, and my memory cards were filled with the data, and I didn't want, and so that's the challenge. Yeah, that's a pretty
Okay,
big
so it's
challenge.
more, like you said, that passion has to be there,
The
that
passion
drive
has
and
to be there.
patience, I think, is really very key. But now let's bring it back to, because a lot of people I get that watch, they live within the cities and urban areas. What is the role that they can play in this? What kind of information should they be aware about? Because that's a new project that you guys are also working on. It's Twin City Digs. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So tell us about that.
Well, it's people in cities that actually make decisions about the entire habitat that their country has. I mean, because it's our politicians, it's the next generation. And what we are trying to do with Twin City Digs, which is, it's a documentary, and in fact, the kingfishers that he's been filming are part of this documentary because they're at Rawal Lake.
Okay.
And that lake is that's a recreational area for people in Rawalpindi and also in Islamabad.
Yep.
So Twin City Digs, we're actually wanting to film wildlife, urban wildlife and environments in cities and parks and streets and parks that people in Pakistan recognize.
Okay.
Because we want to open the hearts and the minds of children to the wildlife and to their urban environments. Because there's a lot out there. I mean, within Islamabad itself, there's 250 bird species. Wow. There's not many cities that can boast that many bird species here. Now, many of them are here due to the Margala Hills, but they do come down into some of the residential areas, and there are many, many species that come to Rawal Lake, either passing through or they're actually staying there.
Okay,
so these
wonderful.
habitats are important, and they are urban habitats.
Okay, but sorry,
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
before we move on, Abdullah, so regarding this, Celeste has made a really important point about educating the children and the next generation. How are we actually making sure that these documentaries that are being made, I mean, social media is all well and good, after a certain age and you're aware of using it, but how are we going to get this information to that generation, to the kids out there? Are we reaching out to schools? What are we doing?
Yes, we are reaching out to schools, and one of a very pleasurable experience that I had recently was we screened our snow leopard documentary in the international school in H8, and
Wonderful.
and I wanted someone to ask me this question, that what was your feeling when you were this close to a snow leopard, 50 meters away from a snow leopard?
so
Nobody
wait.
asked me. Yeah.
So what was your feeling when you were so close to the snow leopard?
Well,
Go ahead.
and well, that's the feeling is, well, you cannot explain it in words. And Mitchell Kelly is a filmmaker, and he expressed it in, well, I'm going to quote him because
Sure.
I don't have any words. He said that the snow leopard is like a siren. It is so beautiful, it sort of seduces you. And once you have seen it, you want to see it again.
Yeah.
And when you have seen it again, you just want to see it again.
Okay, excellent.
That's when you see a snow
Gosh,
leopard.
that must be
that's
such a
your
great
feeling.
feeling. Excellent.
So that's about the children, the little guy, because in other of our screenings, we screened it at multiple, in the German embassy and in the US embassy. No adult asked me that question, and,
Yeah.
and a little kid came to me and he asked me, I mean, what was your feeling when you were this close to a snow leopard? And that's a really good question, and
Yeah.
I wanted someone to ask me that. And
Good.
yeah, so that's how we are reaching out to students. We
Wonderful.
are going to schools. We are screening our documentary in schools. And
Okay, and just before she does,
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
But okay, so it's not, but that's the thing, it's not just about people living in the urban areas. Are we doing this for also the people in the rural villages
Exactly.
and all these
Yeah,
areas?
that's what Nisar Malik Saab's philosophy had been, that we need to take the documentaries to the people where the documentary is actually made.
Exactly.
That's what we want to do. We want to take our documentaries to the people that really actually they share the habitat with that animal. So they come up with conservation solutions themselves. So that's actually the part of our mission.
Okay,
Because even
wonderful.
because even
Excellent.
within the rural areas, I think that